probably that's the only way we can make our system work, because if engineers were in charge, you know, probably no enterprise would make money, no schedule would be met. There would always be something else that could be done to make an airplane safe or whatever. But that's the system we have, and there's an inherent flaw in it. And one thing that always happens, frequently, all the time, is that an engineer feels a certain way and feels strongly, but is overruled by somebody who is not an engineer for reasons of business or mission or, or public relations or something else. That happens a lot. And that's kind of what happened in this second instance that I'm going to talk about. The way that airplanes go through depot maintenance, or at least the way they went through that base, is that there's a big hangar, and then an airplane comes in and gets in a line. And, in this particular hangar, there were two aircraft ahead of it. There were a total of 3 airplanes in the hangar. And when they finish with the front airplane, it's pushed out, and then the other 2 move up. And so they're all on a schedule. And more importantly, the airplanes behind the first airplane have to wait for the first airplane to move out of the way before they can, move to the next step. So if the first airplane ever falls behind schedule, it's very bad. It's not just one airplane, it's 3 airplanes that are waiting around for the problem to be fixed. I was called down to the flight line one day. They were putting an airplane back together. They put Humpty Dumpty back together again. But unfortunately, when they were attaching the skin panels on the vertical stabilizer, the tall part of the airplane at the tail end, when they're attaching the vertical stabilizers, or the skin panels, to the vertical stabilizer, they over-torqued one of the bolts, and they put a big crease. A shear wrinkle is what it's called, in one of the skin panels. And it was obvious to everybody what had happened, and they called me down, and it was my problem. What everybody wanted me to do was just ignore it. Was just to sign my name, say, don't worry about it. It'll go off and fly, and it'll never have a problem, and you can fly that thing forever. It's so safe, as a matter of fact, that, from now on, when we do airplanes, we should always do that, over-torque that bolt and put the shear wrinkle in that skin panel and send it on its way. That's how confident I am. That's really the answer they wanted to hear. I think they kind of knew they weren't going to get that answer. But, they had to do their job. And so they're pleading with me and begging, and it's not that big a deal. And there's no analysis that exists on that specific problem. And there's no way I could do an analysis on the spot to verify that the airplane was safe. I mean, one thing we didn't have, really, was access to what the exact loads were in those skin panels. I didn't even have really the data to do the analysis. So I said, sorry, it's got to be taken off and reattached. Well, now it's going to take another day or 2. They're going to have to get another skin panel from somewhere. They're going to have to get another one of the big bolts that went through the vertical stabilizer, and they didn't have them. So it was going to back everything up, and it was bad news all around. So, but I knew I made the right decision, and I toddled back to my office. A couple hours later, all hell broke loose. The commander of the maintenance squadron heard about it, and he called the commander of the engineering squadron, who was not an engineer. He was just an old C-130 jockey near the end of his career. He was a full colonel, Colonel Payrolo, in a Italian guy. And he didn't like engineers anyway. He thought engineers were just a big problem because they were always slowing down the damn schedule. He didn't care about safety. I mean, he hadn't been in charge ever when one of his airplanes crashed. He never rode an airplane into the ground. Safety just wasn't really important to Colonel Payrola. What was important was the schedule.